All right, let's cross live now to RT's special studio located in the heart of India, New Delhi. Our correspondent Ranjan Sharma brings us the very latest on the elections. Ranjan, over to you.
Thank you, Rachel. In fact, the dance of democracy has just started in India. 19th of April, the first day of the polls. There are about 102 out of the 543 total number of parliamentary constituencies that are at stake that are going to the polls today. Now, India, the fifth largest economy in the world, the most populous country in the world, in fact, is going to be polling over the next 6 weeks. Around 1 billion people are going to cast their vote. Now, this election is an election which the world is watching, the largest exercise in democracy. Of course, to break that down, I have a very special guest with me, foreign affairs expert, Mr. Chaulia, Mr. Sreeram Chaulia. You know, my first question really to you is that this is an election that not just India, but the world is interested in. Why?
Well, I think because India is a rising power, anything big that happens in this country is naturally of global consequence. So, like you said, I mean, close to 1 billion voters, more than 2,200 political parties, thousands of candidates vying for positions. This is just humongous, right? I mean, so I think one is just the sheer size and the dimension. Many people marvel at India, how it holds together and how it is rising and how its democratic process has been so successful and so robust and so credible, you know? So for all these reasons, I think this election is going to be closely watched. No matter what the outcome, people want to see India succeed. You know, most of the international community has a positive view of India. And when they conduct something on this scale, in almost a foolproof manner with hardly any failure, I think that's like proving India's worth and mettle to the world.
You know, in fact, Indian election, they're always very colorful, they're beautiful, they're musical, but also very meticulous. You know, they're always fought on caste and community and religion and so on and so forth. This time, somehow, foreign policy that is, if not center stage, but it has sort of made its way. In the last 10 odd years, we've seen India standing on the global stage has become more powerful, if you may. Do you think that's going to be a factor when people go and vote?
International factors have increasingly become more relevant and in voting behavior in India, especially for younger voters, first-time voters. There's a lot of emphasis on them. Urban middle class, people are very nationalistic. They want to see India become an equal of China and the US as a great power in the world. So for a lot of them, having a strong and a stable government through the elections is the means to achieve that desired, dream or outcome. So, for example, our Prime Minister has set the goal for 2047, which is a centenary, 100 years of India's independence for a developed country and for India to also be a leading power in the world. So, yes, prestige, image, and also India seen to be proving its merit. You know, these are all part of the election calculus. A lot of people are going to want a strong state, stable government, and most likely continuity so that our upward march in the world continues without any interruption. So I think that is the messaging also going on in the campaigning. The ruling party, the BJP, is going out saying we have increased our prestige on the world stage, we have become world leaders, and we have to continue and sustain that. And I think that is cutting across to many voters. So definitely international issues, the positions we take in the world, all these are going to be scrutinized, especially by the urban middle class youth vote, which is huge. You know, we're talking about hundreds of millions of people.
You know, also, Mr. Chaulia, for the benefit of our viewers, there's so much talk about why Indian elections are going to go on for 6 long weeks. They're a long election. Explain to our viewers, why does India need to do that?
Yeah, I think one, as I said, it's the size. You know, it's just so massive, and you have an electorate of about 970 million people. And you need to ensure logistically that you have the electronic voting machines, the polling stations ready, the security, transportation, even the campaigning. It's just the sheer dimension of it. It's so massive. So you'll need time. You can't do all of it in a single day or half a day like you do in smaller countries. So one is just that. And two, I think the Election Commission of India, which is the regulatory authority for conducting it, they are very, very organized, and they do a lot of planning in advance, and they make sure that it's a very impartial and free and fair process. So for all that to happen, if you do it in a rushed way, there could be malpractices, and there could be questions about fraud and such things, in the outcome. So to make it totally credible and free and fair, a large country like India will need this, I mean, imagine if China had something like this, then they would also probably have to stretch it out because of the size. Of course, it's an authoritarian system, and ours is a democratic system. But it's just India is so unique, right? You have 1.5 billion population, and you have to manage elections and make sure people have trust in the system, make sure that people's participation is growing. Your viewers will be happy to know the last election we had in 2019, 5 years ago, the turnout was 67%. It is the highest ever, which means that people find that they're becoming stakeholders, and they have a real, say in choosing their rulers. So India is setting an example in that. There are many countries in the world where, voter turnout is low or is declining. People are becoming cynical. A lot of the Western democracies, they are in crisis.
In fact, last time during elections in 2019, India had the highest percentage of people who went to cast their vote. Do you think that that trend is going to continue?
I think the mobilization is high. I can see the campaigning and the excitement in the air. It's a vast country with 28 states, 8 union territories. So you go to the grassroots in the country, you'll find a lot of people are really, really charged up about this election. This is the biggest thing in the country for the next several weeks before the results are announced on 4th of June. So I think all of it adds up. There is going to be high turnout. I can't say whether it will beat the 2019 one, but I think enthusiasm is there, especially among the poor and the middle classes. For them, every vote counts, and they feel like I'm powerful. On this day, when I'm voting, I really have political power in my hands. I really am a citizen.
And that's the beauty of elections, right? Every 5 years, there comes a time when the people become more powerful than those who are sitting in power. And let's talk about Narendra Modi here, the Prime Minister of India, who is eyeing a third rare term. Now, no matter where you land him, he's somebody who's somewhat seen as a powerful leader. You may love him, you may not love him, but he's somebody who cannot be ignored. Do you think that his third term is something that the West also is closely looking at? Because he's somebody who's balanced the world force in a sense, Russia on one side, West on one side.
Yeah, no, definitely. I think he has very high goodwill in the international community. India often bridges the East-West divide or the North-South divide. So it's a very unique power. And so therefore, a lot is riding on this election because I think most of the world wants him to come back. There's no doubt about it. And they believe that they already have major strategic partnerships with India, and they would want those to continue. There has been some, murmurs of dissent and criticism, especially from Western countries, about alleged decline of democracy in India. But overall, I think Mr. Modi's stature is very high, and people want him to keep going, and at least rule for 15 years so that many of the goals he has set for the country can be accomplished.
Well, the decline of democracy or the threat to democracy, as that you mentioned, that the Western press claims, or even the opposition for that matter, they've taken the same line. And that's what their manifesto also somewhat mentions, that they'll restore the secular ethos of the country. Do you see that as a factor playing in these elections? Because no matter what you say, this election may be about bread and butter, unemployment, rising prices, but at the center of this election is also Hindutva. At the center of this elections is also identity politics.
I think India is actually much more united than the Western critics try to make it out to be. There's this whole narrative that India is becoming very polarized and divided and all that. Western liberal news media keeps on harping on that. But if you see the reality, it's quite different. I think the country is getting more unified and mobilized. There's more nationalistic consciousness. People want to be seen as Indians first, and then, only then, whichever religion or caste or language they belong to. I think Mr. Modi and his party, what they've done in the last 10 years is really galvanize the society in a way that there is a broader Indianness or Indian consciousness. So the idea that, we are highly divided, I think that is being challenged even in these elections. You see, people are voting across the lines of caste and religion and even language, So it shows that there is a sense, especially in the national level elections. At the state level elections, maybe those other factors come in, but now we are doing this for the national parliament. And the general elections, there is this broader sense of India as a country and that we are all Indians and we need to do something for the rise of this country.
Sreeram Chaulia, my last question to you, and we're not going to make any political predictions here, but all the opinion polls really in the country, they are pointing towards one direction. There's some sort of predictability to these elections. Do you think that what the opinion polls are saying is something that will come true?
I expect Mr. Modi to get a third term. Most of the pundits and the psephologists, the people who study election science, believe that he will win. And his party will retain power. But, uncertainty of outcome cannot be ruled out. It's a very, very transparent and free and fair election. And in certain pockets of the country, there are other parties that could win. And you will always need an opposition in a country. It should not be a one-sided affair. So people want some balance. So let's see. But overall, I think the drift is quite clear. India is becoming more nationalistic. India is becoming more democratic. And India is likely to stick to Narendra Modi.
Sreeram Chaulia, thank you so much for breaking that down so succinctly for us. So Narendra Modi seems to be unstoppable at this point, but the opposition, the coalition of the opposition, the India Alliance, which is a dozen opposition political parties in India, giving a challenge to Mr. Modi, also seem to have a spring in its feet. So of course, till the last vote is counted on the 4th of June, one really doesn't know what will happen. But of course, Narendra Modi seems to have an edge. A part of his political campaign has been Is Baar 400 Par, which means this time we're going to cross 400 seats out of the 543 parliamentary seats that are up for stakes. But of course, for now, it's over to the voters and over to the studio in Moscow.
All right, Ranjan Sharma live for us in New Delhi. Ranjan, thank you.